Hello, we're glad that you joined us as we continue talking about the incredible human mind. In the last portion, we discussed the power of the mind, and now we want to explore some of the limitations of the human mind. One limitation of the mind is that you can't know what you don't know.
Yeah, if you never heard, seen, or experienced something, you can't know it until you do. I grew up in a small village in Honduras where we had no drinking water or electricity. There were no bathrooms, and we cooked in a fire pit. My first experience with a toilet, electric stove, and drinking water was when I came to the United States. But now in my business here in the United States, I design and build custom bathroom for customers. That's another level beyond just knowing about a toilet. Now I have a vast knowledge of different possibilities of bathtubs, shower, faucet, tile, glass doors. But if I had never left my little village, I probably will not have known about the bathrooms, you know. So then just going behind a tree and cleaning myself with leaves or toilet with a newspaper and take a bath in the river.
Wow.
You know, like Tarzan, who, you know, only knew life in the jungle.
Now you can't know what you don't know.
What you don't know, yeah.
Even our grandchildren will probably never know what a phone with a cord connected to the wall is like, or a telephone book with yellow pages. Do you know what it looks like? Do you remember a big thick book wrapped up in plastic being left on your doorstep and filled with about 2/3 white pages with the names and addresses of all the people in your city in alphabetical order, and then another 1/3 yellow pages listing all the businesses?
Yeah.
You know, things change.
Yeah.
We don't know everything.
Yeah. So people who live 150 years ago have no point of reference for internet, computers, cell phones, and video chat like Skype, FaceTime, or WhatsApp, you know. Those things were not real life experience for them. If you try to explain these things to them with words, it might be difficult for them to understand because their mentality will be limited to their own knowledge or personal experience, because you can't know what you don't know.
Yeah. So the title of this lesson is The Battle of the Mind. And the limitations we're talking about now, especially the next one, is why we say the mind is a battlefield. The second limitation is that not all thoughts are true. Said differently, it may be that what is true for you based on your limited experience and knowledge is not actually true.
Yeah. Why do you think Jesus said, "You will know the truth, and the truth shall set you free"? If it is the truth that sets you free, then it has to be a lie that holds you captive.
Yeah, that's true.
So this means that we can know or believe things that are not true, which limits us from knowing the real truth.
Have you ever heard the phrase, he was framed? Someone can be framed for murder or for something they didn't do, why you can make it look like they did it, even though they didn't.
So our current circumstances are often framed by the way we have learned to process and see life through our knowledge and experience of the past.
This is where it gets interesting and a little complicated.
Yeah.
Some research on the brain has determined that we have something called the left brain interpreter.
Yeah, so we don't have time to go into the details of the study, but you can learn more about the left brain interpreter online by simply doing a search. And also, Dr. Carl Lemon, in his book, Outsmarting Yourself, calls it the verbal logical explainer.
Yeah, so we all have this left brain interpreter or verbal logical explainer. It's an unconscious phenomenon that puts the pieces of our own personal knowledge and experience together like a puzzle to try to form and complete a picture. And it fills in the missing pieces of the puzzle with logical conclusion or beliefs based on what we have learned or experienced in the past or patterns from our past.
Patterns from the past, yeah. So we are mostly not aware of this phenomenon because it unconsciously operates very gentle and quickly bringing explanations that make sense and relieve chaos and confusion. For the most part, our verbal logical explainer begins with very accurate information and puts together an explanation that is valid.
So it usually gives us a pretty good guess.
Fairly, yeah.
But if the information that we have to frame the situation is wrong, distorted, or incorrect, we can come up with a completely wrong conclusion. But that logical conclusion that we came to makes sense to us because it's based on our experience and information that we think is true and right, but isn't.
Yeah.
So we have this unconscious part of ourselves that automatically manufactures an explanation for life situations based on our framework of past experience and information stored in the mind. And on top of that, the enemy, the father of lies, is always waiting for an opportunity to tell us lies and give us a counterfeit piece of that puzzle to make it look complete so that we believe that conclusion is true and we make decisions based on a false belief.
And that's why lies are one of the enemy's greatest weapons. When we believe that something is true and it is not, and then we make decisions and act based on false information or belief, this action made based on false belief or lie can hurt us, and others.
He just wants to kill, steal, and destroy. So that's a great way to get us to help him.
That's his job, yeah.
Another kind of similar thing we do unconsciously that limits the ability of our mind is the concept of confabulation. The definition of confabulation is to replace a gap in the memory or the mind with a false idea that the person believes is true. Confabulation is when a person unconsciously composes a response or an explanation based on their best guess. They don't even know that what they're saying is pure speculation, and they have no intention of deceiving themselves or others. Your mind offers the most logical explanation based on limited mentalities and ways of thinking.
I can tell you before I became a Christian, I was a great confabulator.
And even after.
We can have wrong thoughts about the right information, and that's why 2 Corinthians 10:5 tells us to refute argument and theories and reasoning and every proud and lofty thing that sets up against the true knowledge of God, and we lead every thought and purpose away captive into the obedience of Christ.
Yes, definitely. It's important to learn to do that. Sometimes we can see the verbal, logical explainer at work easier in children since it's less developed and they have less knowledge and life experience to draw a conclusion from. I remember asking a small girl, "Where did you get those beautiful brown eyes?" And she looked at me and said sincerely, "At Walmart." Her experience is that everything you got at Walmart. So when she was asked when she got her eyes, her verbal logical explainer concluded that Walmart was a logical answer. She wasn't trying to lie or be cute, even though
she was lying.
She did lie, and it was cute. She was just confabulating her best answer with the limited information and experience that she had.
So what is important to know is that we can unconsciously arrive at conclusion and explanations for our own behavior and others, as well as the circumstances of life, and are not based on true. Yeah.
When a crime is committed, a smart criminal frames the evidence to incriminate another person. Once the investigators follow their trail of misleading evidence and convict the wrong person to jail, the case is closed. In the same way, once our mind is determined that something is true based on how the situation has been framed, it can be difficult to reopen the case and find the truth. And even when we do find the truth, sometimes it's hard
to accept it.
To accept it. Truth, we've already believed it's something else to be true, and now
because it's been too long believing that lie.
Yeah.
Yes. A person may have been programmed for so many years by a certain religious or political mindset, and every new idea introduced is processed and interpreted through that limited mindset or frame of reference, which can be a barrier to receiving and knowing the truth. Do you know someone with a closed mind about religion, politics, or something else? That's a good question right there.
We will talk later in later classes about how this is part of the anatomy of the stronghold, and it can lead us to make judgments and inner vows. Mm-hmm. But the point we want to address today is that our mind is not only limited in capacity, but the mind also has the ability to deceive us, and therefore it is not always an adequate source of truth.
We have 3 or 4 sources constantly feeding us information: God, the devil, ourselves, and the world. Mm-hmm. Each one trying to get us to align with their truth. Jesus said we can know the truth, and the truth will set us free. So how do we know the truth? Jesus is also the way, the truth, and the life. Mm-hmm. The Bible says we have the mind of Christ. I'm going to repeat this. The Bible says that we have the mind of Christ. This means that we have access to the truth. We'll learn more about that in the next portion, but please right now make sure to read the PDF for this class to cover. This class is
it covers more than we can do in the videos.
More than what we can do in the video. So we'll see you for dessert and coffee.